Welcome to the Health Revolution, the show that leads you to a life of vibrant well-being. In a world full of noisy health trends, we bring you clarity through a sea of fads. We reveal the science behind the strategies that truly work. We explore physical strength, emotional resilience, and mental mastery, the keys to an enriched life. See inspiring interviews with the champions who've conquered life's health challenges. Are you ready to unlock your potential to live with vitality and purpose? Then join the Health Revolution. I'm your host, Adriana Morrison, health and fitness expert, speaker, and a mom who understands. Let's embark on this transformative quest together. If you want to change the game, it all starts now. Revolution. We're excited that you're joining us today. I'm your host, Adriana Morrison. No matter which way you're tuning into us, please do not forget to hit the subscribe button. We want to stay connected to you. Also, at the corner of your screen at the bottom, there is a tab for show episode notes. Be mindful of that. There's some important information about today's episode. And we want to say welcome to all new viewers to our show and say hi to returning viewers. Our show is all about elevating the human body, incorporating what it takes to have emotional resilience and mental mastery. It takes all of these factors to optimize our life today. And today, let's get into it. We are talking about what it means to have longevity and thrive into your 80s and beyond, because of course the life expectancy in general is right around 80, 81 years of age. So how can we ensure ourselves that as we get older, that we are optimizing our life and we're not depending on doctors or medicine or the things that could limit us with how we truly want to move until it's just that time. So today we're diving into that. Our guest is someone who I'm excited to talk about because he is a living example of what it means to do just that. Let's get to know him. First, take a watch of this. Meet Michael Dorfman, investigative author and certified nutrition and lifestyle coach. At 83 years of age, he's not just living, he's thriving, thanks to 16 years of plant-based nutrition and intentional lifestyle choices. Michael is the author of The Thriving Vegan, a bold, eye-opening guide that challenges misinformation and reveals how whole plant-based foods can transform our health, energy, and longevity. He also touches on truth, media, and freedom in his latest work, Information Warfare: The Battle for Truth and Freedom. Today, we'll learn what it really takes to age with power, prevent disease, and reclaim our health naturally. Michael Dorfman, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Adriana. It's great to be here. I've been looking forward to this for like weeks.
Same here. I love your vibrancy and just all that you stand for. And, let's be honest, you're 83 and thriving. And take us back to your journey where health really became something that you embraced and you knew you placed high value and that you wanted to pursue to the optimal level.
Well, it all started, my health journey, in 1976. I had been eating meat before then. Actually, my father was a butcher, and my brother was a butcher, and I had a lot of butchers in the family. So we ate meat and dairy, and that was the basic. So in 1976, I had come back. I was living in Mexico, and I came back to the United States, and it was that time that I started getting involved in Eastern philosophy and religion, and it was important. Many people on that side of the world were vegetarians, so I decided to become a vegetarian. And things were going along well for years and years, except for I was getting every year I would get sick. It wasn't a terrible sickness. It was a flu-like symptom, sore throat, congestion, fever, but it was once or twice a year, and I didn't understand why that was happening. My brother, who was living in New York, he had told me that, or he had recommended to me that, maybe the problem is the dairy. And to me, it was a shock to hear that because you want me to give up dairy also? So I didn't want to do that because I loved the pizza and I loved the yogurt and I loved, all the stuff with the and even Mexico, because I was living in Mexico with the quesadillas. So it was very difficult for me to do that. And at first I didn't want to do that. So I let the years pass and the sicknesses would return every year. And then my brother recommended the China study by T. Colin Campbell, so I read it, and it really was an eye opener for me. So that influenced me, and I decided that I was going to make the change, and that was 17 years ago. And so I became plant based. I don't really like, even though the name of the book is The Thriving Vegan, which I wrote, I sort of consider myself a plant based nutritionist. And I can get into that as well. Why I decided that, but this was 17 years ago, and I haven't looked back since. All those yearly problems with my health were gone. And even though once in a while I'll get some symptoms, uh, that was okay too. But this changed my life, and that was uh, something. It was very important for my own being, for my own health, that I made the change. But I can also get into what changed me, influenced me in me wanting to help others.
You brought up 1976, that was a turning point, not only just the celebration of the bicentennial, but also the fact that it was back then. This wasn't something that was lauded as everyone should be doing. In the 70s, as it's been known, that the TV dinners were being pushed, and the whole concept of, well, it's fast and it's good for you and all of that. Were you the only one really exploring what's really going on with my body? Those who were in your inner circle, was it you that sat and just really gave pause for thought, or were there others around you that were thinking the same thing?
Well, I think no, it was just me. It was just a decision I had made, and I also gave up cigarette smoking that same day, and I
Oh,
never
that's
went.
fantastic.
It's funny because you mentioned that some people. For me, it's easy to make changes. It's been that way through my life. If something catches my eye, okay, I'm going for it. And it still is that way. For other people, it's not the same. For other people, it takes time. It's not that easy, and it has to be gradual, little by little, and that's okay too. But for me, that's what it was, and yeah. And now that you mentioned it, I'm thinking about that, and it's been pretty easy for me to make changes.
So, do you feel like your doctors back then were also on board with having conversations whenever it came up, whenever you were sick, when you went to the doctor? Did it ever come up back then that did any one of them explore nutrition, food? Was that anything you experienced?
Well, at that time in 1976, I really didn't know that much until it was past 1976 when I read the China study, and I became interested in doctors who were who were promoting plant-based nutrition. And then little by there were it was Dr. Greger, it was Dr. McDougall, it was Caldwell Esselstyn. These were all regular doctors, MDs, and but they had veered off into this new area of plant-based nutrition. And it'll really the one that influenced me most was Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn with his prevent and reverse heart disease. So that was a big that was the big change in me that allowed me to, well, I was able to see the importance of plant-based food is in preventing and reversing chronic diseases.
Did you ever had moments in your life where you were obese, or that you just really struggled with energy when you were younger?
Well, going back, actually, I was a football player. American football player. I in high school. I was big. Well, I wasn't I wasn't that tall. I didn't get any taller. So it was I was 5'9", but I weighed over 190 pounds when I played high school football, and I had four scholarships to universities, and I took one, which was the University of Bridgeport, football scholarship. But then I saw the size of some of these monsters, and even though Bridgeport wasn't a it's not a top graded high football school, for me it was. So I didn't last that long. I quit the team, and I gave up my that profession. But I was big. I was strong, and then I start after that I started gaining weight, and I didn't never became obese, anything like that, but I was overweight and lived a more sedentary life after that. And so that was, but I never was really tremendously overweight.
What shocked you in your journey to become healthier and as you were becoming and embracing a plant-based lifestyle for nutritional intake? What really shocked you about your body? What did you discover along the way that you didn't realize was important before?
Well, it was it was it was just the experience of gradually eating more and more uh, plant-based foods. And what was shocking to me is that it wasn't being accepted, that there was this aura about being a vegan. That was at that time. The aura of being a vegan was that where are you going to get your protein from? Where are you going to get your calcium from? And I was living this experience, when I eventually adapted more and more a plant-based diet, that there was no problem with that. And gradually, as I learned, as I read more and more, and I experienced more and more, I realized that there's no problem with protein and calcium. So I think that maybe that was the big shock, that people weren't really, they were being told that the protein was the main problem. And now I know that's not true. And there are so many elite athletes in the sports today, in football, basketball, in rock climbing, and tennis, in marathons. They're doing very well on plant-based diets. Maybe not 100%, some of them, but 85, 90%. But that's the way it is, and people still believe that and have a hard time, accepting that you get everything you need from plants.
One of my favorite definitions of the effects on dairy and animal proteins on the human body is that there are, it appears to be, varying degrees of inflammation in the human body when it comes to consuming dairy or animal products. Whereas one person can feel like, I can have a bowl of ice cream and I don't feel a thing, whereas somebody else could have just a little bit of an animal-based product, and then suddenly they're feeling some effects, maybe bloating, maybe just lethargy or something like that. As I'm saying this, what's your take on that, the inflammation variation? Because not everybody's body responds with concerning, immediately noticeable health impacts.
Yeah, well, inflammation is part of our health. It is part of the immune system, the body's way of reacting to infections, things that happen within our body. But the problem isn't the inflammation, because it's a natural, health preventative of our body. The problem is that inflammation, when it becomes chronic, and that's the danger. I would consider inflammation, chronic inflammation, as maybe the number one danger for chronic diseases, and that's what happens. You know, when we eat too much animal products, uh, it ends up that we have a dysfunctioning gut, with the microbiome. And one of the products of the microbiome that's dysfunctional is inflammation.
When we think about how the body is responding, one thing that is inevitable is getting older, our entire body composition begins to get smaller, begins to shrink. So especially in our 50s, listen, I'm 52 and I'm very well aware of the body continues to change. So how have you stayed on top of your health, your level of energy, your that vitality, and keeping on top of your strength, being able to move?
Yes, well, in my first book, which is The Thriving Vegan, I really explore the nutrition part of it, plant-based nutrition as being, to me, it was the most. It still is the most important part of maintaining wellness, optimal health. But I was just active throughout my life as a, on plant-based nutrition, and finding from experience that I have this energy, this vitality that it kept on going through the years, through the 40s and the 50s and the 60s. And I remember in the 40s, how everything has changed with our concept of age. In our 40s, I remember that the problem with what was it? The middle age. I forgot the word.
Midlife
Middle.
crisis.
Yeah, that yes, middle age, and when you reach 40, you were going through this problem of middle age, and everybody would say, "Oh, I'm in my middle ages now. I'm depressed." It was like comparison to, the woman's problem, and now it's a man has this problem going through middle age, and that was the way it was when we were in our 40s, and that changed all of a sudden. That disappeared. What happened to this middle age crisis? There's no more middle age crisis at 40. That went. So we're living longer. We're going into the 50s and the 60s. And then, oh, it's also life begins at 40. I remember it. And there was this famous comedian. I don't know if you ever heard of Jack Benny.
Yeah.
He was a famous comedian. And at that time, 40 was such an important age that he never, every time, even when he was in 60s, whenever anybody ever asked him on his show, oh, I'm 39, because you didn't want to get to 40. So this was a concept that people had. And when you have this concept, it's like you believe it. So you go that changed. So 50s people were okay in their 50s and 60s, and then I saw when people started getting into their 60s and 70s, people were getting sick. My friends were getting sick, and people I knew were getting sick, and people were dying from chronic diseases, and everything. I was fine. I never had a chronic disease. I had problems, health problems, but to me, the most important thing was avoiding the chronic diseases, which is our organs inside. We can have other problems that I've gone through, and most people have gone through health problems. But the most important thing is avoiding this chronic disease, which is the most debilitating and really, harms us as we get older and older. That's why when you get into the 70s, I think it's 75, 80% of the people have at least one chronic disease. And even though you mentioned, the life expectancy being 80 and 81, that doesn't talk about what is the state of your health.
Very
You
true.
can live to 80 and 81, and many, many people do. But how are you doing? Are you feeling as vibrant as you were in your 40s, or flourishing or creative, And that's what the problem is. And that's what I have come to represent in my life, that we have an incredible life waiting for us when we're in our 80s and 90s. And,
You know,
that's what I'm trying. Yeah, go ahead.
and I think that you touched on a few points that are very important. That society has started to acknowledge that there is just much more to life, even as we get older. We even have a new life stage that is emerging adulthood that is considered in the mid-20s. So by the time cognitively we are catching up, we get to the point where we are very transparent, and so very many people, men and women both, getting older, just don't really care about the things that maybe we were timid about. So then there's this level, there appears to be this level of, I'm really going to go for it. I'm not done living. And so, to your point, it seems like the opinions have shifted. Then that 40 is not looked at all over the hill, which I could not stand that phrase. But, but being able to say, what else can I do? And this is very important. We're going to take a commercial break. We are coming back. Stay right there.
So in the calm bag, it has GABA, theanine, and taurine. So theanine, which is B1, which is also in our B complex, but it also helps with the stress response levels. It also helps with the neurological transmitters in our brain. Combined with the GABA, and then you add taurine to it. Taurine is a non-essential amino acid in our body, but it's found in our heart, our brain, and our eyes. So in my personal opinion, it's very essential in our lives. But taurine has a calming effect as well. When I was battling all my AFib issues, I was taking high doses of taurine because that would help with my AFib. It would help with the palpitations I was having. And it also helped with the anxiety of having the palpitations because I knew what was going on. And so taurine helps a lot with that as well. So those three together create such a wonderful concoction that really calms people down.
Introducing Launchpad, the perfect partner to help you launch your dream project to the world. We know that time is of the essence, and we're here to help you make the most of it. With Launchpad, you'll get access to the most advanced digital tools and strategies to take your idea from a mere concept to a fully fledged success. Whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur or a seasoned pro, we have everything you need to make your mark in the world. Launchpad, your ultimate launch partner.
Embrace longevity and thrive well into your 80s. Our guest today, Michael Dorfman, he's an investigative author. He's also a nutrition and lifestyle coach. And before the break, we started to dive into some of the components that society has evolved in looking at food, nutrition, movement. Getting older, it's not something to fear. More people are embracing it as we are moving through the times. And, Michael, I'm curious, can you share with us what are some of the misconceptions that people have about plant-based living, especially for those who are older adults?
Well, misconceptions is that, one of the misconceptions is that the main one is protein. That where do you get your protein from? I still get that question, and a lot of people who are plant-based still get that question, and that's one of it. And also the belief that you, it's difficult to follow a plant-based diet. People think that, I remember when we used to go on the airlines when they did serve food at that time. If you asked for a vegan diet or vegan lunch, you would have some baked carrots or some carrots and some stewed tomatoes and some rice. And people have this idea, and I say, what is that? Because it's incredible. I mean, it's truly. My wife we've both been plant-based for 17 years. My wife is an unbelievable cook, plant-based cook. Every day she's experimenting, and every time we get people coming over, as to try some of what she makes, her dishes. They say, well, if I knew this, if I could cook like this, I would definitely become, plant-based, a vegan. And so that's the problem. And in the energy, people think that, well, where are you going to get energy? But just the fact that there are so many elite athletes, there's the Game Changers is a famous documentary which is on Netflix, translated in not there with subtitles in Spanish as well, about you know what's really happening. All these elite athletes in tennis that I mentioned before, in sports. So it's not true. Some of the strongest people in the world, Patrick Baboubian, he's considered one of the strongest people in Europe. He's a weightlifting champion. He's big, big body. And so he was saying the story, telling the story of someone asked him, "How do you become as strong like an ox?" And he said, "Well, I eat what oxes eat, plants." You know,
And
so
to
that's
your
the whole
point,
thing. Yeah,
and
okay.
go ahead, go ahead.
No, I'm saying that, if we really look at the truth of the matter, it's like, protein comes from the ground, from plants. Everything we eat comes originally from the ground. It's the animals eat the plants and we eat the animals. So for me, why not go through that third party and just get it straight from the plants? And it's
So,
healthier. It doesn't have, some of the side effects that animal products have.
so one argument is that the amount of protein that comes from, say, animal protein is the concentration is higher per serving than the plant than plants and any plant-based material. What's your response to that? Where someone says, but grams per serving for protein. If I were to eat beef or poultry, my protein serving size is this amount, whereas with plants, the volume of food that I need to match the protein is a lot higher. What do you say to that if someone brings up protein to protein?
Yeah, I would say you're right. Meat has always been the most complete protein. So you can eat the meat and get the protein from it. And plants, it's that's why it's very important to eat a lot of plants and eat a lot of plant foods. So for anybody who loves to eat, there's nothing better to eat than a lot of plants. But I'm not talking about plants or vegetables. Just whether it's green leaf vegetables or broccoli or cauliflower. I'm talking about grains. I'm talking about seeds. I'm talking about cereals. I'm talking about beans. I'm talking about rice. I'm talking about some of the favorite things we eat: tofu made from chickpeas. We have soups made from so many different types of plants. There's no end to it. The beautiful thing about plants is that each plant tastes differently. Plants come with their own flavor. With meat, you have to, nobody eats raw meat. That's what all animals eat. Human beings are the only animals that eat cooked meat. So you have to, you add the sauces and the fat, and you fry it, and you go through all these processes, which is what in order to be able to eat meat and taste okay, uh, taste well enough so you can eat it. But yeah, it's true. But plants are beautiful. Plants are beautifully flavored, and you just eat lots of them, and you eat different colors, and they get the more different colors you eat of plants, the better nutrition you have, because each plant, it has its own offering. So
Good point about the different plants. I think to the gut microbiome, there is studies out there that continue to support the idea that the variety of foods that we can eat, it can help support our gut health, our gut function, and that technically the more the varieties that we have, the better it is. And of course, society, our habits aren't the greatest right now, where we typically don't eat an array of what Mother Nature has to offer. And I want to circle back to your book, The Thriving Vegan. I want to talk about that, and we're going to bring that up for our viewing audience to see. Talk about when did you decide to write the book, and what really inspired you to put pen to pad?
Well, yeah, that gets me back to the original, what I had mentioned, that what made me have this desire to help people and not only, enjoy my life, as a vegan or plant-based. And it happened that we had a friend, Beatrice. We were living in Mexico. Well, she was a very close friend of my wife, and she lived in Cozumel, which is an island in the Caribbean, or it's a Mexican island. And she had a heart attack. She had been a friend of us for many years, and she went to the hospital. They took her to a hospital in Merida, which was a city in the Yucatan, and she had quadruple bypass heart surgery, and she got through it fine. Even though she did have a heart attack on the operating table, so they it was successful. They sent her home, and they had replaced her the artery with a vein in her leg. So that was functioning now as her artery, and the body is incredible. It does things like that. It can, it adapts very well and is very resilient. So she went home, and about a year later, she had pain in her left arm, which is a sign that something may be wrong again. So they got her back to the hospital, and what the idea was to put a stent in, which is normal. Yeah, many people who have bypass surgery, after a year or two, they have to have a stent put in, and maybe even another one after that, and another one after that. So she went back, and the whole plan was to put the stent to open up the vein, and the problem was that the vein was too narrow, and they told her that they couldn't do anything, and that they sent her home. But what they didn't tell her was, and they told my wife, and they told her son, is that she had about 6 months to live. So at that time, I had been on a plant base for like a couple of years, and I heard about that, and I decided that I was going to talk to her about the possibility of plant based without mentioning anything that she didn't know about this 6 month, you know, what they told her, which is what doctors often do. So I told her about it, and I gave her this book, which was by Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, by incredible doctor from the Cleveland Clinic. He was the head of the staff for many, many years. He's over 90 now, and he wrote this book, which was, in fact, at the top of the book, it says the book that changed the Bill Clinton's life, because he went on a plant based, and because he had stents put in after his surgery, and he didn't want to do that anymore. So I gave her the book, and she read it, and she decided to go plant based. And mind you, she never went 100% plant based. I would say 85, 90%. And but instead of living 6 months, she lived almost 9 years. So for me, it was like, wow, because I read these stories about other doctors doing this with their, on plant foods. And for me, it was a close friend. I helped her. Wow, that was incredible. And that's what made me decide that I got to start talking about it. And I started talking. I was living in Mexico, and I started talking about it, giving speeches at different events, and then I decided to put the pen to paper.
So, the focus of the book, what does the book do for the reader?
What the book does, it really delves into the benefits, the tremendous benefits from plant-based foods, and it also uh, signals it's the holy, what is it called? The sacred cows of nutrition. And I deal with that. And that's what people like. The main, it's controversial stuff. So I talk about gluten, and I talk about, the different types of beliefs that people have about plant-based, about supplements. I get into supplements, and so things like that. I point out. I point out that you believe this, and you believe it because the mainstream, and there's a lot of information supporting, whether it's supplements, whether it's gluten, or other things, or it's the oils, olive oil. So, and then people believe it because that's the information they get. But when you dive into it deeper, you find out that that's not the only information that's there. And people, but they don't question it because the shelves are filled with, olive oil. They're filled with supplements. So and
So
everything you can't. I go into the gluten, gluten free. So I go into my hair to the supermarkets, and I'm trying to find wheat spaghetti, whole wheat spaghetti, and you can't find it anymore because it's gluten free. Everybody wants gluten free. And this is what I went. This is the other thing I went. And also, what I got into the book was also about how we eating plants is better for the planet. So those are some of the things I got into.
real quickly, I want to go ahead and highlight just a little bit about your second book. So we're going to bring that up here for our viewing audience, and it is Information Warfare. So as we touch a little bit about, this was your latest book published, and can you just highlight the message that you that you love for viewers to have about your second book?
Yeah, well, I think the second book, this is I'm looking at it right now, and I think it's maybe the subtitle, and it's why and how governments, corporations, industries, and the media manipulate information to control what you see, hear, and do. And this is why I like to be called investigative author, because I think throughout this whole thing, it's all started back with the Vietnam War, and I just got into doing a deep dive into the information, because on the surface, the information we get is being promoted by, whether it's the government, whether it's the industries, whether corporations, the media. And that's what we're hearing, and it's still going on to today. So even though I wrote that book a year ago, a little bit over a year ago, everything, it's still continuing today, and that is what is happening. It's separating people. So you believe this, I believe that, and the separation between people. There's people not accepting other people's ideas, and so I get into it, and this is what I bring up. I touch different topics, such as the wars that are going on. I touch the topic of the pandemic. I touch the topic of climate change. And it's just giving an alternative way of looking at things based upon my research, so that people, well, you don't agree with me, that's okay. But, I'm offering this as another alternative, so that maybe if you read something, you start opening up to others. Things that you're not opening up to at this time, information, you start opening to that and listening to other people who have different points of view than you. Then maybe your whole education will grow, because you're going to see different sides of the story, and then from that you'll make maybe a more conscious decision of, okay, I've changed my mind because I see this makes a lot of common sense, what this person's saying.
And I love that deep dive, because we still have to always have those type of questions about where we are. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We are coming back. Stay put.
Welcome to Renew Laser and Skincare, where beauty meets technology. From laser hair removal and anti-aging treatments to facial sculpting, acne care, and injectables, our expert team helps you look and feel your best with customized, results-driven care. Located in Littleton, Colorado, we offer a comfortable, welcoming space and cutting-edge treatments tailored just for you. Visit renewlaserandskincare.com to book your transformation today. Renew Laser and Skincare, where confidence begins.
Hi, I'm Adriana, and welcome to Fit Bites. Did you know that 67% of the workforce sits for 4 hours or more at a time? Sitting for long periods can take a toll on your body, increasing the risk of back pain, poor posture, weight gain, and even serious conditions like heart disease and diabetes. The solution? Move more. Stand up every 30 minutes and take a quick stretch or walk around. Incorporate simple desk exercises like seated leg lifts or shoulder rolls to keep your muscles active. Even standing while on phone calls or using a standing desk can make a big difference. Now, when you have time, add movement into your day with brisk walks, yoga, or strength training. Now, these activities can counteract the negative effects of sitting and improve your overall health. Remember, small changes add up. Your body is designed to move, so break up those long sitting sessions and stay active throughout your day. Stay tuned for more Fit Bites with Adriana.
Welcome back, everybody. We are talking all things embracing longevity and thriving well into your 80s. And we're spending quality time with Michael Dorfman. He is an investigative author. He's also a nutrition and lifestyle coach. And Michael, I got to ask, what are your non-negotiables when it comes to your lifestyle, your embracing that healthy lifestyle? What are non-negotiables that you do consistently?
Well, the main focus is nutrition. That's non-negotiable. Plant-based nutrition needs to be a major, the most important part of what you consume on a daily basis. And it's not only coming from me, but it's also from the healthiest and longest living people on the planet, which people who are living in the blue zones, and also in the rural parts of Japan, rural parts of China and Africa. People who eat plant-based as foundation of their diet are people who are living longer and living healthier, and you could see it in the life expectancy. I mean, there are people living 10, 15 years longer than we live in the West, and that's where the basis of, I guess, of what I'm eating is based upon what they've been eating. And it's interesting because there are 5 different blue zones in different parts of the world, and they have that similarity that they all are plant-based, and they have other similarities which are also important. But to me, plant-based, yeah, go ahead.
I do want to go ahead and let our viewers know what blue zones are. Blue zones are concentrated areas in the world where there is a greater number of centenarians, those who made it to age 100, and there are many who are still out there. But and that's for those who don't know about the blue zones.
Yeah, so the blue zone, well, I have it there: Okinawa in Japan, Sardinia in Italy, Icaria in Greece, Loma Linda in California, where they play pickleball, by the way, and Nicoya in Costa Rica. So it's spread out over the world, and they have. And Dan Buettner was sent by National Geographic. He was an explorer. He holds 3 Guinness World Records on bicycling around the world. So he was sent by National Geographic to find out where the healthiest and longest living people in the world live. So he found these places, and he wrote these books, several books after that. And it talks about different lives. It's not only nutrition. And this is what changed me, just because my first book, which was the Thriving Vegan, was based on pretty much exclusively on nutrition. And now I have included lifestyle changes, which I find are important, especially for, I think, one of the main things that is the cause of chronic diseases and dangerous, that is very, very important to treat and deal with, is stress, which is so prevalent all over the world because of the world we live in.
And so to your point, I know you've done so much and you're proactive in optimizing your life. I want to make sure we hold space for talking about how you help others do the same thing too. And so talk a little bit about your course and who it's for. We're going to bring up that information here. Who are you working with right now, and what does that look like with your Longevity Wellness Revolution course?
Okay. Well, that's, the course is my way of helping people, besides writing the book, this is the title of my book. It's my way of helping people. And I've worked with small groups here locally. And it's really to help people who are really interested. I have people, friends of mine, other people say, "Boy, I really, you're my idol." They tell me, because they're in their 40s or 50s and they see me 80 and I play pickleball or whatever I do. And so you're my idol. Or, oh, I wish I was like you when I'm 80. So it's not enough.
So for our viewers, it's obviously you do talk about best practices and tactics in which others can optimize their life, that they can maximize their life, would you say?
Yeah, I do, and different practices. Part of it comes from the blue zones, and some of it has come from what I've discovered for my life. That's in maybe different people have other possibilities. So I deal with habits that really it's not very very difficult to make changes. People think that in order to give up something, even cigarette smoking or something like that, which is a very, very strong habit. But even giving up meat, how do you give up meat? How can I give up dairy? But there are ways of doing it, and I deal with that. You don't have to. It doesn't have to be. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect. All you have to do is you really want to change, and it's one. If there, let's say there are two examples, two people who want to give up smoking, and one person says, "Well, I'm a smoker and I want to give up smoking," and the other person who is a smoker says, "I'm not a smoker." And that way of thinking and believing means so much, that the person who said I'm a smoker will come back or I'm an alcoholic, and well, once you see yourself on the other side, then you are already there. You have already legitimized a new you. And that's the way I see it for myself. And I'm going through it too, because one of the things I do now is I'm trying to. I hate cold. I hate cold showers, and I know that one of the important things for the immune system and for a healthy body is to have cold. It's very very healthy. And I'm learning now. I'm going through so I finally am able to take a cold shower without and get adapted to it. And we can adapt to these things. It isn't really difficult. And this is part of aging. When you get into your later years, it's incredible what you can learn about how resilient and how adaptive our body is, and how creative we can be by experimenting and doing things that we think that we can't do, and one of them is
And
changing habits. Yeah.
And for our viewers, obviously the longevitywellnessrevolution.com is where they can get more information about that. We've got to go to break. We are coming right back. Stay right there. longevity and thriving well into your 80s and beyond. And we're spending time with Michael Dorfman. He is an investigative author and he is a nutrition and lifestyle coach. Michael, where can we find you in the virtual space?
Well, I have two websites. I have the information warfare, which is I explained that in my first website, which is michaeljdorfman.com. But my main websites, which I'm working on now, it's a new one. It's been only a few weeks old. Is the longevitywellnessrevolution.com, where I really get into this topic, which I'm really, I'm just motivated by, and really want to see if I can help people achieve that.
We love that word
wellness.
revolution around here. We love that word revolution around
I know
here.
that, right?
And what about other social media websites? Can you talk a little bit about where else you're at in social media?
Well, I think my main one is Substack, and so here it's michaeldorfman.substack.com, and this is where I put up my weekly articles. It's usually a week or 10 days, and I'm really enthusiastic about it. I just put up my latest one today. And then, so every week I'm doing it, and this latest one was on stress. So what I do after this, I put this up on my other media outlets, which is my Facebook and Twitter.
And listen, we're also pulling this up for our audience to see, so that way they know if they're on a specific social media platform that they can find you appropriately if that's their wheelhouse. And one last question I wanted to ask you is what is your takeaway for our viewers today? If you were to sum it up, what is the one thing you want to make sure that they understand?
I don't know if it's exactly summing it up, but what I want to say is, when feeling good becomes the priority in your life, everything can change for you. And what I mean by that, I'm not talking about feeling good because something is going right for you, because if it's based upon what's happening on the outside. When it's not happening, you're not going to feel good anymore. I'm talking about feeling good innerly, from your inside, within you, deep inside. And it's really interesting how I apply that, because no matter what I'm going through during the day, every once in a while I'm stopping for a moment and I'm saying, how am I feeling? Am I feeling stress? Am I feeling worried about something? Am I feeling, in other words, and then I could go into what I practice to help me get through that.
Michael Dorfman, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much for sharing all of your nuggets. We appreciate you being here.
Well, I really appreciate it. You were incredible too. I really enjoyed it.
We work around here. So, and for all our viewers, of course, we want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors. We appreciate their support. Biomed Mobile IV, Dapper No Code, Launchpad, Renew Laser and Skincare, and Synergize Fitness. We are also on the web. You can find us at thehealthrevolutiontv.com. There you can sign up for our newsletter. You can email us with any show episode ideas that you would love for us to cover. In the corner of your screen, you can catch our QR code. And then, of course, you can count on us to be here for you every Tuesday and Thursday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern on the Arion TV channel, on E360 TV, and all the major distribution hubs. That is all the time that we have for today. Until next time, take care of yourselves. We'll see you soon.